I identify as a straight male, and I can hear you thinking, oh, another angry male. I know I'm the destroyer of the world, but I would really appreciate it if you use my proper pronoun, the problem. What an uncomfortable time to be a straight male. It's a tough time for my people. It's an uncomfortable cause to be a straight male in 2023. Kinda guilty by association? I mean, give me a chance. It wasn't my fault. I never made the conscious decision to be born a straight male, although I probably would have chosen it, especially after reading this book of the week, Everyday Sexism, which has made me realize we still have a long way to go on the road for a better future for men and women. So let's begin this week's podcast. Welcome to the Clive experiment, the battle of the sexes. In this week's podcast, I'll be discussing Everyday Feminism by Laura Bates. We'll then progress on to Andrew Tate, who is now a free man, and identify if he is a positive or negative influence on our young people. I myself am a parent of a 12-year-old boy who consumes Andrew Tate's content. I decided to investigate and watch all of his content to make sure he was suitable for my son to watch. I totally understand why some people love him and some people hate him. We're going to finish off analysing UK statistics on domestic violence and potentially why this has happened. So let's begin with Everyday Sexism by Laura Bates. Laura Bates' book is a troubling and eye-opening exploration into the pervasive nature of sexism in modern-day society. Bates, a feminist writer and activist, draws on her experiences dealing with everyday sexism and her online project, the Everyday Sexism Project, which aims to expose and challenge everyday incidents of sexism. The book is divided into chapters covering different aspects of sexism, such as education, the workplace, media, and cultural. Bates weaves personal anecdotes, statistics, and interviews with women of different backgrounds and experiences to highlight the impact of sexism on women's lives. Bates argues that sexism is not limited to acts of discrimination. It's also evident in subtle and insidious ways that are often overlooked and dismissed. She explains how gender stereotypes and expectations are ingrained into society and how they limit women's opportunities and perpetuate harmful myths and beliefs. Bates also highlights the intersectional nature of sexism and how it affects women differently based on their race, class, sexuality, and other identities. She acknowledges that the fight against sexism must be inclusive and intersectional to be effective. The book offers practical advice and tips for individuals to challenge and combat sexism in their daily life. Bates encourages readers to speak up and not remain silent when they encounter sexism, whether it's in the workplace or at home or in public spaces. Overall, I found Everyday Sexism to be a very one-dimensional view that sheds light on the prevalence and impact of sexism in contemporary society from the point of the feminist. Bates's writing is simple and easy to understand, making the book suitable for a broad audience. I read this book with my 12-year-old son. It took us 10 hours to read, and it highlighted many opportunities for us to discuss our reality. This book is a great tool for anyone looking to raise well-rounded children, but it is very biased and often paints a much darker picture of society than it really is. In Everyday Sexism, Laura highlights the pervasiveness of sexism in modern society and how it negatively affects women's lives. While the book focuses on women's experiences and perspectives, it is important to note that it does not imply that all men are responsible for perpetuating sexism or that all men are sexist. Bates acknowledges that sexism that is deeply ingrained in society and it affects people of all genders. She also emphasizes the importance of men's involvement in the fight against sexism and encourages men to be allies to the struggle for gender equality. It is possible that some readers might interpret this book as negative towards men, particularly if they feel that they are being unfairly treated or blamed for a societal issue. However, it is important to remember that Bates's goal is not to vilify, but to expose the challenges and pervasive nature of sexism in our culture. While the book focuses on women's experiences and perspectives, it is not meant to be a condemnation of all men. Rather, it is an invitation for all individuals, regardless of their gender, to acknowledge the existence of sexism and work towards a more equitable society. And one of the main areas where she focused on was sexism within the work and the issue with gender inequality in the workplace, which is a problem that has been subjected to many discussions. In many cases, the focus on efficiency and productivity in the workplace lead to a disregard for gender equality. One of the ways that this plays out is in the hiring and the promoting practices. Employers may prioritize candidates who are perceived to be fitting traditional gender roles, such as men being hired for leadership positions and women being hired for support roles. This not only perpetuates gender stereotypes, but also limits opportunities for women to advance in their careers. Furthermore, workplace priorities may not always take into account the unique challenges women face, such as caregiving responsibilities and the gender pay gap. For example, maternity leave. Women may face discrimination when they return to work after having a child. Another way that efficiency can override gender equality in the workplace is in the way work is organized and evaluated. The emphasis on individual achievement and competition may disadvantage women who are more collaborative, team oriented. Additionally, women may be penalized for taking time off for family responsibility or for not being available for work-related events outside of working hours. Overall, the focus on efficiency in the workplace creates barriers for women to advance in their careers and contribute to gender equality. It is important for employers to recognize and address these issues to create a more equitable and inclusive workplace. This can include implementing policies that support a work-life balance, offering unconscious bias training, and promoting diversity and inclusion in hiring and promotion policy. I believe we're all entitled to our opinion. I personally believe that stereotypical men think and act in a certain way, as do women. And that's why we have gender stereotypes, because a majority of us think and act in a certain way. And that creates how society. I believe men and women are not equal. I believe women are far more valuable than men, as they carry the future of our species. They do have a specific gender role to bear children for our society. And our society is built on that fundamental rule. And everything we do and everything we have built to this date is linked to this. Now, I'm not saying they have to do all the caregiving and they can't have a career, but I do believe that raising children is fundamentally the most important part of human existence for men and for women. And without women, we can't make children. And without men, well, you don't need as many men, let's put it that way. Men typically like physical and challenging work that does not really involve dealing with people, whereas women typically are better at dealing with others. They work better in teams. And I don't dispute any of what Laura says in her book. However, the traditional gender roles was put there because that's traditionally what men want to do and what women want. And there is a small minority of men that want to do female strong positions, and there's a small minority of women that want to do male dominant positions. And that's totally fine. But if you work in those environments, you have to work to the level of the people that have already established the standards in those job roles. We can't change how society has been built up over decades or millennia overnight. Men traditionally work better with other men, and that's because there is always the potential for a physical confrontation. So there are rules even our bosses know. Because men are generally less agreeable, if we feel persecuted or we feel like somebody is treating us badly, we'll generally stand up to that. Women are typically more agreeable, and they ultimately often get taken advantage of because of that reason. I personally don't like working with men. I enjoy working with men, taking the piss out of each other, pushing each other to the limits until somebody cracks, and then going even more, because that's what it is to be a man. That is how we communicate. That is how we choose our positions in our little social groups. You know, it's exactly the same as the animal kingdom. We don't physically confront each other because you get hurt doing that. We have our own ways in a modern society that we establish our dominance within our social groups. I truly believe men don't get enough opportunities to be masculine anymore. And I see the world becoming a lot more chaotic because of that reason. The world was tamed by strong men who act rather than speak. And men and women think differently. This is not a negative or a positive, but it does create areas where men and women perform better generally. And again, this is why gender stereotypes or norms were created. So that brings me on to the next part of the segment where we discuss Andrew Tate and if he's a positive or negative force on the world. Now, for those of you who don't know, Andrew Tate is a former British kickboxer, self-made millionaire, and internet personality. He has gained significant following in social media platforms such as Instagram and Twitter and YouTube, where he shares his views on various topics and offers advice on how to achieve success in life. Some of Andrew's positives that I've identified is Andrew Tate is a successful entrepreneur who has made a fortune through his businesses. He is known for his no-nonsense approach to business, and his success is an inspiration to many young men who aspire to become entrepreneurs. As a former kickboxer, Andrew Tate promotes fitness and martial arts, which can help lead to healthier lifestyle and develop self-defense skills. Andrew Tate is a motivational speaker who inspires young men to believe in themselves and act towards achieving their goals. He often shares his personal success stories and provides practical advice on how to overcome obstacles and to achieve success. There are a few negatives to Andrew Tate. For a start, he has very controversial views, according to the mainstream, on various topics, including women, race, and politics. Some of his comments have been classed as sexist, racist, and offensive to many people. Andrew Tate has been accused of bullying, harassing people online, including his followers, critics, and other internet personalities. He has been involved in several high-profile online feuds, which have often often turned into personal attacks and insults. Andrew Tate has been accused of having a lack of empathy for people who are struggling with mental health issues, poverty, and other challenges. He has been criticized for promoting a tough love approach, which some people believe is harmful and insensitive. In conclusion, after watching all Andrew Tate's material, I believe he has good insight and wisdom. However, he uses the controversy of his beliefs to increase his reach, which is just good marketing. Andrew does speak for a vast majority of men. He does speak the hard truths that most men wouldn't dare to say out aloud. He has a traditional value, which does seem to annoy the feminists. I don't see his message any different to the likes of Jordan Peterson, whom I follow and admire. It's just Jordan speaks from an educated thinker's point of view, and Andrew speaks from a rough man from the streets who has used his grit and determination to get to where he is today. Andrew Tate does have an amazing story, and I admire and I think young people who are lacking a strong male figure in their lives would really benefit from following Andrew. And I think if young men are lacking a strong male figure in their life, he is not the worst person to follow. Books like Everyday Feminism are the reason personalities like Andrew Tate do well in the male market. Men feel persecuted for being masculine and aggressive, but that is everything that makes a man a man. Men should become capable and dangerous and then learn to control it, because the alternative is just a weak man, and those are the ones that go around doing the crazy shit like shooting people up in a college or just act in a cruel manner on the weak. So typically Andrew Tate uses traditional values and gender stereotypes to portray his views, but I've never seen him be disrespectful to any woman on his online profile. I just want to discuss now what I believe. Sometimes I think we complicate things too much. We try to make everybody happy, and it's impossible to make everybody happy all the time. But I think sometimes we have to tell ourselves, stereotypically, life is the way it is because that's what people want. My wife and I, we have a traditional family values, but we both share responsibilities from finances to childcare to parenting and planning our life. However, we play to our strengths. I generally do the man work, DIY, lawn mowing. Because of my shift pattern, I actually do a lot of the school run. I make more of the meals, but that's because I'm a planner and I really enjoy cooking. My wife deals with insurance and anything that requires talking on the phone. I hate talking on the phone, and she is way better at that stuff than me. I plan for the long-term future, and my wife plans for the short-term future. I plan for 10 years in advance, and my wife makes sure all our children have a great upbringing and we all have memories to take with us to the future. Is my wife strong as me? No, but she is more intelligent, that's for sure. And then when it comes to our house, we're equal. I do my fair share of housework, but I don't clean bathrooms and do ironing. But my wife doesn't mow the lawn or fix anything that's broken. Now my wife buys into boys should be emotional, and I don't. But I do say to my son, don't let anyone get the better of you, and know it. Hold it in, find me, and we'll cry together, and we'll work out a better outcome. It's okay to cry, but for a man, it's also okay to hold it in and don't let other people get the better of you, or don't let other people know they get the better of you. It's okay to be a strong male and not cry if you want to be that person. The point that I'm trying to make is, if you want to play the gender role, if you want to be the stereotypical male, that's okay too. I don't think anybody gets told that enough. It's okay. It's okay to be an emotionally intact male as well. That's totally okay, and it's okay to be in touch with your feelings. But some males just don't naturally do that, and that's okay too. We don't all have to be the same. But what we do have to be is we have to be considerate to others, and we have to recognize that our actions hurt other people. I'm a firm believer in, I have libertarian values, and I believe that a man should be able to do anything as long as it doesn't hurt. So you can say what you like in the closeness of your home. It doesn't matter. You're entitled to your beliefs, but don't take your beliefs out into the public domain. Just because you think it doesn't give you the right to say it. Just because you believe you're right doesn't mean you have the right over somebody else to put them down. There's enough world for all of us just to get along. And the reason why you don't see, straight males outside picketing because our rights are getting taken away from us, because we don't care. We're too busy living our lives, supporting our families, raising our children, and doing the best job we can in the world that we can't control. And that is what society is all about. I'm a firm believer that a man provides and a woman provides the emotional stability of the home. Yes, modern day world now, no family can survive on one paycheck. We can't survive on one paycheck. We're the same as everybody else. My wife works a full-time job. I work a full-time job. I work shifts to make sure that we don't have as much childcare costs. The world has changed from the 1960s. I totally agree. Men and women have become joint caregivers, and the fact that women get 6 months maternity and men only get 2 weeks paternity. That's right. I would love that to be changed. I'd quite happily have stayed home for 6 months looking after my child, and my wife could have gone back to work, or she could have had 3 months and I could have had 3 months. That would have been great. So there's certain areas where the feminist movement I totally agree with, but I don't believe believe in equality of outcome. I believe in equality of opportunity. If a job role has been designed for a man and it's a physical job and a man can do 100 units in an hour, but a woman can only do 60 units an hour or 80 units an hour, then there is not an equality there. That woman shouldn't be able to earn the same money as a man because the man is doing more work. So if the man does more work, he should earn more money. But at the same time, there's jobs that aren't like that. There's jobs in a factory where you're just pushing a button and the machine does all the work. That's a gender fluid role. Therefore, men on the machine and women on the machine should earn exactly the same way. Then there's the sporting stars. So men traditionally watch sport and women traditionally don't watch sport. Now, I'm not saying women don't watch sport at all, but traditionally men love sport. It's our gladiator thing. We watch it because we relive the days of when we used to be gladiators, and it's a way of matching ourselves against the best in the world. So men follow sport. Therefore, male sports generally earn more money than female sports. So a female footballer and a male footballer are not going to earn the same money because they don't bring in the same amount of revenue, because men don't really watch women football. They watch men's football. They'll watch a women football game if it's on and it's not a male football game, but they would choose a male football game over a female football game because it's the higher level sport. Men are more stronger and competitive than women. If it was a sport where women and men could compete with equally and they had an equal opportunity, then those women should get paid the same as men. If the women's sport brings in more money than the man's sport, then the woman should earn more than the man. I'm a firm believer that the world has gone a little bit crazy with this equality of outcome and equality of opportunity. And I think we're focusing on the wrong one. The outcome is not the one to focus on. The opportunity is the one to focus on. Let men and women play to their strengths. We're all unique individuals. We all have unique sets of skills. Every man is different to every man, and every woman is different to every woman. And everybody, I truly believe, everybody has a talent. Whether they find it at a young age or an old age, it's there. Everybody has a dream, whether they know it at a young age or they find it later on in life. Everybody should work towards their best version of themselves and pursuing their most authentic life. But we can't change the world so that everybody's equal, because everybody is not equal. And people like Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson, they say this a lot, and they might say it in ways that gets people upset, and there'll people that get upset by what I'm saying, but they're only words, they're only perspectives, they're only points of view. I'm not looking to hurt anybody's feelings. I'm telling everybody my truth. My truth is I 100% believe in equal opportunity. That's men and women and every other gender orientation vying for the same position. But I believe the best person should always get the job. Whether that person's male or female, that's up to the person assessing who's the best person for the job. People are losing out on jobs even though they're the best candidate for equality of outcome, and that too is not fair. After reading both Everyday Sexism and looking into Andrew Tate this week, I decided to look into the UK statistics for domestic violence. Everybody talks about how bad things are, but how bad are things? So here's the first slide. As you can see, this charts domestic abuse, partner abuse, family abuse, sexual assault and stalking. And from 2005 to 2016, things have steadily gone down. From the high point of 2005 to the low point of 2016. And this tells me society is continuously going in the right direction. We're not perfect and we're never going to be perfect because we're humans. We're not created perfect. This was taken from the government website. Now this spreadsheet tracks domestic and other homicides of ages 16 and over by sex, age and victim. So victim of domestic homicides from March 2018 to March 2020. And as you can see, victims of domestic homicide shows that women are by far more at risk than men. And it is very sad that domestically women are still getting abused and attacked and killed in this day and age. But just to highlight how dangerous the world actually is, the next one is victims of non-domestic homicides. And non-domestic homicides, it was 966 murders. Of those 966 murders, 131 were female and 834 were men. And this shows you that society is not the issue. This is an ingrained animalistic behavior thing. Humans fight. We have fought from the dawn of time. And unfortunately, men are very much the issue here. And men have life way more dangerous than women. Outside of the domestic house, men are more at risk than inside the domestic house. That's absolutely true. We spend more time outside the domestic house than inside. Men are the protectors. Men should never ever cause harm to their woman or their family. But men are the protectors in the outside world as well. And the outside world is a very much more dangerous place than in the home. The statistics show us this. So we have to be very careful in trying to fix a systemic problem. That is a systemic problem, not just domestic. This is a societal issue. So this next slide is ending year 2021, and it's the total number of rapes and sexual assaults recorded for March 2021. So we've got rape of a female aged 16 and over, however, we had 18,848 cases of non-domestic abuse-related rape. 18,246 cases were domestic abuse. That is a scary statistic, and I was very uncomfortable when I found this. Then I saw the sexual assaults on females aged 13 and over, and I saw the amount, and I actually felt sick in my stomach a little bit. There are 26,348 cases of sexual assaults. If you increase so between the ages of 13 and 16, that added almost another 8,000 cases of rape. However, in the younger ages, more of them happened outside of the home, but they still happened inside the home. This is a serious problem. It's seriously troubling. And this is the kind of information that I start thinking about when I read these books of sexism and I get my male defensiveness going. And then I see these statistics and I start thinking to myself, if a man, a protector of a family, does something to the people under his care, he is not a man, and he is not worthy of that title. Men are protectors. And this slide is extremely troubling to me. And I was extremely defensive when I first read this book, and I did not really like a lot of the stuff that was being said. And some of the statistics have kind of made me go, yeah, I am right. But this statistic was the most uncomfortable one I uncovered, because men in their homes are creating terrible, terrible crimes. And these are weak men. These are the men that didn't become capable, that didn't become competent and dangerous and learn to control it. These are the weak men that I'm talking about, that turn their endeavors and turn their actions on people who cannot defend themselves. The weak. And society needs to root out these men. However, this is the most troubling slide I've found on the government website. This is the prevalence of domestic abuse among young adults 16 and over by type of abuse and sex. So physical abuse, threats, force, sexual assault, stalking, these are all percentages. So no matter which one you read, physical abuse, threats, forces, sexual assaulting, women are higher. Any partner abuse, women are higher. However, there is a small male side. So not all women are perfect. There's if you put that into a ratio of 10, 1/3 of women are just as bad as the weak men. So let's realize that and take note of that, society. That 1/3 of women are just as at fault, are just as wrong as half of the men that perpetrate these crimes. And again, these are troubling statistics that you don't realize when you're a good father and a good husband, and you're not causing any hurt in the world, and you don't deal with these things day in and day out, and you're not a member of the police, or you're not a member of the legal society, or you're not in politics. You don't read any of this stuff. You think everything is just okay because once you close your door in your house, everything's safe, your family's safe, and everything's safe. But there's people that are actually suffering out there, men and women, and people should speak up for themselves and defend themselves and stand up for what they believe in. Government should be looking at ways of making things better. We need to figure out why these things are happening. I wish I could find the data of all the interviews of all these people to find out what actually happened at the time that led to it. What are those men going through? What are those women going through? What's the root cause analysis? Why is this happening? Were they abused as children? Have they had a really hard life and failed a lot and taking it out on the weakest person around them? Why is this happening? Why are people doing this? Especially when you're a person that could never physically do any of this stuff. Why is it happening? What causes a person to get to that point? We need to figure out these solutions in order to solve this problem. But we can't just say men are, toxic masculinity is the buzzword that everybody throws around to solve this problem. But what is toxic masculinity? Because the very masculine men, the real hard men, are not doing this stuff. Real hard men are not interested in abusing the weak. Real hard men are only interested in fighting people that are their level and above to climb their social status, to climb the ladders, of climb the industry, climb their division of social life, the division of their social life. The strong men are not doing this. So it's the weak men. Why are we focusing on the strong men and making them out to be the problem when we're not focusing on the weak men hiding behind closed doors? And again, this slide is just another one that just paints it out perfectly. So in the first circle, you've got female victims and male victims. So obviously male victims are smaller, female are bigger. But then you go women killed by men, by a male current form or former partner, and men killed by a female current or former partner. Massively, massively different. Men are really small, women are really big. But then you go into the outside world, men killed by men, or women killed by women. Men are causing these issues. But again, these are not the masculine, strong men of the world. These are the weak cowards of the world that attack only the weak. It is dangerous to be a man in the world. It has always been dangerous to be a man in the world. You get sent to the front lines. If you're not high enough nobility, you get sent to all the bad places. That is how it's been since the beginning of time. Only now in recent decades has the world been safe? And we all forget that World War II ended in 1945, and since then we've had an unprecedented amount of safety. If anything, we can see around us today, the world is changing, and that is because perhaps we've all gotten very, very soft, and we're not prepared to make those difficult decisions, and we've gotten weak. Then there was COVID, and COVID shot up the numbers of domestic related offences in England and Wales, and I'm sure other parts of the world. This isolation and this entrapment, caused massive amount of social problems that we had never factored in, and they're still continuing to this day. And we have to understand why these are happening, and we have to find solutions for them. But we can't blame the sexes. These are systemic issues that need to be focused on, and at the end of the day, this is true. 1 in 3 victims of domestic violence is male, but that doesn't discount that 2 in 3 are female. Domestic violence, regardless of whether the victim is male or female, is wrong and should stop. And we need to do what we can as a society to figure out a way to make it better. Help these people, help themselves, change their ways. And that brings this week's podcast to an end. And it's been a challenging one, because we all have our own views on how society should work. We all have our own views on what a man is and what a female is. What's important to us, because we're either male or we're female, and we decide what's important to us. I have my ways, and I have my beliefs, and I have my core principles that I stand by. I generally look to never put anybody down or say anybody's wrong for pursuing their life or pursuing their course in life. As long as their course doesn't affect me, I have no problem with anybody doing their own thing. The only time I have a problem is when the world starts persecuting me for a stereotype and we have to remember that those stereotypes have been around since the beginning. Men are not as important as women. When there's a war, men get sent to the front lines, women do not, because you do not need as many men to repopulate the world as you need women. If you watch my videos on demographics and you see how the UK birth rate has dropped down to 1.8, you soon see how important it is these gender stereotypes are to our society, to our economy, and it's not something we should be looking to change. Men and women have always worked together to raise a family. That is our primary goal. We meet a woman, we fall in love, we raise a family. We work hard, we build a house, we build a home, we keep that family safe, and those are our roles, regardless of what job we do, or regardless of how much you want to be a woman or how much you want to be a man. Those are what we're here on this planet to do. Career is not the most important thing, and I would gladly give up my career to raise my children if I had to. Luckily, my wife and I, we have a relationship where we're both pretty much equal in what we bring in financially, and we're very much equal in what we put in the house physically. There's some areas where my brain works better than hers, and there's some areas where hers works better than mine, and we work together to solve problems. It's the perfect partnership. We take things from both perspectives. I am not the leader of my house. I am the protector. I am the man. I do the man job. But we're a modern day household, and we believe in modern day values. We raise our boys to be diligent, hardworking, loving, caring people. My wife teaches them how to treat ladies with respect, and I teach them how to treat ladies with respect every day they watch me with their mother. But I teach my boys how to be hard and how to defend themselves and how to look after themselves in a very dangerous and difficult world. A lot of us that grew up, I never grew up in the West, I grew up in Africa, but my children, they've grown up in the UK. They're never going to know the dangers and the hardships that some people experience in the world. Naturally, they're going to grow softer because they've never experienced those hardships, but they need to know about them. You need to teach your children everything you can to be as good and caring and as capable and as dangerous as possible, so that they can learn to control themselves and become valuable members of society. And that is the problem. Parents, we are responsible for our children. We are the ones that teach them right from wrong. And if you're a father and you're abusing your wife and your child is seeing that, he's going to grow up to do the same thing. If you're a father and you work hard and you make time for your family and you're compassionate and you're caring and you listen, you're going to raise a family that's going to be the next generation and possibly make the world a better place. The decision starts with you. I am for one 100% against domestic violence. And anybody who abuses anybody is less of a person. But I'm also a firm believer in men should be left to be men and women should left to be women. And if a woman wants to enter herself into a male-dominated realm, then she has to rise up to that occasion and be accepted in that male-dominated realm. They shouldn't have to change to accept the woman. And the same for a man. If a man wanted to become for argument's sake, for the lack of a better idea, a nurse, let's say. Traditionally, that's a female-dominated role, and a man goes in to become a nurse. Nobody thinks anything worse of the male nurse. I personally don't. I don't care, as long as they're doing their good job. However, they can't go in there and be a hard man and not care about people if you're going to be a nurse. You have to have those feelings. If you're a male and you have that compassion, then you'd be a great nurse. And if you're a woman and you're a roughy-tufty or like a tomboy and you can cope with a male working with men and the hard, the hard environments that men work, then you're fully entitled to be there. But you have to keep up with the men. You have to keep up, and you have to contribute the same. You don't have to contribute more. You don't have to be better than them. You just have to keep up, and then you should earn the same. If you're earning less, then that's not acceptable. If you're doing less work and you're earning less, you need to accept that you're doing less work. The same as a man. If we're in an environment in a workplace and one man does less than another man, we'll be telling them, listen, we're carrying you here at the moment. You need to pick it up or you need to go. And we'll start giving them a hard time internally. Before it even gets to management level, that guy would usually leave because he knows he's been found out and he can't keep up. And everybody else is carrying him. And that makes his working life difficult. That's the way our workplaces were designed to work. It's not bullying. It's just how it is. And if anybody's watched all my previous stuff, you know I'm a true believer in equality. I want the world to be equitable. I have a disabled son. I'm fully inclusive. I'm fully buy into the inclusivity of the world. But I would never push my son forward to say he should have the same job as anybody else. He has a very specific need and a very specific ability. He's not equal to everybody else. He's his own unique individual. And that's the most important thing. We need to accept who we are, who we want to be, and who we can be. And we need to be generous, and we need to be caring, and we need to be the best versions of ourselves. So until next time, take care.